Good afternoon, good morning, good day to all of you. Here we are again, another edition of Huddle Up with the Fun Coach. I am Mark Duncan. I am the Fun Coach. I am thrilled to be with you today on this last episode of 2022. So the next time I see you will be the first week of January of 2023. So I hope this is finding you all well and healthy and enjoying the beginning of the holiday season. This is also crunch time for nonprofit organizations to generate philanthropic revenue before the end of the calendar year. You have 9 days left to make sure that those gifts that are coming in so that they can be counted for 2022. I say this often, I always say this around this time of year. If you're a nonprofit organization and you're concerned about whether or not gifts actually are going to be able to count towards 2022, just make sure if they're being mailed, if it's a check and it's being mailed, that it is postmarked December 31st or earlier. If it's online, that it is made online on December 31st before midnight. Then you'll be able to count it for the 2022 calendar year. So I want to talk today about something I haven't really discussed on this forum, but it will be something that will be top of mind for quite some time. And that is this idea of building and creating a culture of philanthropy in your organization. And does your organization have a culture of philanthropy? And if it does, is it a strong culture of philanthropy? What does that mean? I'm going to talk briefly, and this will be a short session today. I'm going to talk briefly about what I believe are the three elements that you must have in order to have a strong culture of philanthropy in your organization. Okay. So the first is has to do with a committed leadership. A committed leadership. So what do I mean by that? I'm talking about your board and I'm talking about your executive leadership, whether it's the executive director, um, head of finance, whoever is that team or that one person on the paid staff side has to be committed to this whole idea of philanthropy, and also the board. So that means that fundraising is an integral part of the work that is done for the organization. It is not an extracurricular activity. I'm going to repeat that. Fundraising is not an extracurricular activity. If your organization is treating fundraising that way, where it's off to the side and it's not being focused on as an integral part of the organization and it's over here, then you are missing a very important element of creating a strong culture of philanthropy. Your board members, they need to be willing to be door openers. They also need to be giving. 100% of them need to be giving. Your staff leaders must be a model for your organization in terms of building this culture of philanthropy. So that means that everybody in the organization needs to be aware of what the leader is doing to generate the philanthropic revenue that's needed to keep the organization going. So it's really, really important. And I often say this, I'll say it here about your board members. If you are a nonprofit organization and your board could use I don't want to say makeover, but you want to make sure that the folks that are on your board are the right people on your board. And so I often talk about 4 C's that you must have on your board and criteria that you should have for your individual board members. One, they need to be committed and care, right, about your mission. That's a given. They also need to have capacity themselves, at least capacity to be able to give what would be considered a major gift. Third, they need to be connected. to other people in their networks who have capacity. And then finally, they need to be comfortable with introducing you to those friends that have capacity. So, committed to your mission and care deeply about your mission. They need to have capacity themselves. They need to be connected and they need to be comfortable introducing you to their friends that have capacity. And so if you have that and your board is also giving, then that is a really, really strong part of the first element of creating a strong culture of philanthropy. Second, there has to be what I call intentional integration. And this is more on the staff level. This is the day to day. So if you are an organization where one person is responsible for fundraising, or you have a department that is responsible for fundraising, and they're operating over here on the side, and no one really knows exactly what they're doing in terms of activity, who they've met with, what are the big gifts that are in play, all of those things, and more importantly, if they're not utilizing those other staff, right, who are where the rubber meets the road, who can help tell the story, who can help you build that relationship, make the case, make the ask, and close the deal. If you have a siloed situation, then you really need to tighten that up. And so every single person in your organization is part of your fundraising process. Everybody. And that starts with from when the time someone answers the door or someone answers the phone. That first impression can make all the difference. And so you as the CEO, or you as the executive director, or you as the head of development, you may have great people skills and you may be a wonderful person to connect with to be an ambassador for your organization. But if the person who's answering the door, who's answering the phone, or greeting people as they come into your organization, if that spirit and that energy and that welcoming um, demeanor isn't there, then you certainly have not started off on a positive note for that donor. You get one chance to make a first impression. Your staff should be treating every single person who calls the organization, who stops by the organization, as if they were $1 million donor, as if they were $1 million donor. Really, really important. And so everybody on staff, everybody, it doesn't matter what they do, whether they're direct care staff, or they're the bookkeeper, or they're working in food service, or they're part of the maintenance team. It doesn't matter. Everybody is representing your organization when people come to visit you. And so it is going to be very, very critical that you establish a culture within your staff so that they understand their role in this process. Okay? Really, really important. Third, consistent activity. So we talked about committed leadership, we've talked about intentional integration, and making sure that everybody on your staff understands that even though they're not asking for money, they play a role in this process. The final is consistent activity. So you really can't have a strong fundraising program without being consistent with the activities that you engage in. So if you're just doing, one-offs, like you're doing mailings once a year, you're doing an event once a year, that's all great, but you want to make sure that you are maximizing those opportunities so that you can create consistent activity that you engage in as you're getting out and you're meeting with major gift prospects. You want to make sure that you are consistently engaging with them, not in October, November, and December when it's time for them to give, but all year long. And that includes making sure that they're aware of all the things that you're doing as an organization throughout the year, things that they're going to be interested in, the reasons that they are giving. You want to stay connected with them and make sure that they are getting to see the fruits of their investment, right? The return on their investment. So really, really important. Regular donor visits, just making sure that this is an integral part of your fundraising activities. The only way you are successful in making sure that you secure the dollars that you need to secure is you have to be consistent with your activity. You can't just go on a visit and then 4 months go by and then you're starting to engage in visits again. It's got to be an integral part of what you do, and it's got to be consistent. Okay. So I just wanted to briefly talk about, sort of plant the seed for this really, really important um, piece of how you can talk about relationship fundraising. Relationship fundraising is strengthened by having a strong culture of philanthropy in your organization. And so it's really, 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 really key that you make sure that you build that in. So once again, committed leadership, intentional integration among your staff, and consistent activity. It's those three things that will create a strong culture of philanthropy for your organization. So, I want to thank you all for watching, whether you're watching live or watching the replay. It's been a pleasure coming to you this year. I wish all of you a very, very safe, healthy, and happy holiday season and a prosperous new year. And I look forward to seeing you all at the beginning of 2023. And as always, this whole idea of fundraising is never, ever about the dollars. It's about what the dollars do for the people that you serve. Happy holidays.